You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and this is episode 66, which should have been titled Foundation Festival from last week, given it launched on Friday, and my episode was before the Foundation Festival began. We're calling this one Jump Points. There was an incredible Inside Star Citizen that came out yesterday called Intro to Jump Points, and it's worthy of the title of this podcast. On this episode, we'll be covering the Foundation Festival that's going until July 31st. The free flight ends today, so that's what I meant by conclusion, but we have events going until July 31st. We will cover the Super Galactic Xeno whatever it's called, cookbook. We'll get into that. It's like a fun community-driven event from Alien Week a long time ago. We'll talk about the current state of patch 324 in Evocati and maybe why it's still there and when we could potentially see it in the PTU. Some predictions I have, some predictions that my community, Soul Provision, has for patch 323. And then we will get into the Inside Star Citizen. A couple episodes ago, I had asked the question about lore deep dives. Starting next week, we will be getting into some of the ship manufacturers. I think that'd be a great opportunity to dive into something that you're curious about. And there's a lot of information in the Galactopedia and elsewhere. We will more than likely start out with Robert Space Industries, as that was the very first manufacturer up in space. I hope this finds everybody well. This is going to be a pretty short episode relative to last week's. Last week's we covered 2 weeks worth of analysis. This week we're just covering the one, and there was not a lot that went down. We did not have anything on Tuesday. There was no lore drop on Tuesday, and then as of Friday, today, there's not a Star Citizen Live, and there's really nothing else dropping today as well. So it's a very, very short week. But before we get to any of that, a couple of from the community updates. So let's get into that.
Incoming message.
Alrighty, a little bit of a point of, I'm going to call it depression for me. We, for the last several episodes, 10, 20, 30 episodes, we provided not only a poll at the end of each episode, but we also provided a Q&A, like a question. I would ask a question and the community would answer with a short little blurb on the response. And Spotify has since discontinued the Q&A functionality of their podcast programs, which is very unfortunate, because one of my favorite things to do with y'all is have that engaged conversation. So right now, all I can do is ask you a poll. And there is a comment section. So Groza from the Soul Provision org, part of our community, recommended or had an idea of me asking you a question, and that's what you would respond to in the comments. For right now, I just want to start with open comments. So reactions to the episode, ideas for the next episode, anything that you would like to put in the comments, we will address like we used to do in the Q&A piece. So for me, it's very unfortunate. I loved hearing from you all. Got to know a few of you regulars that would respond. And again, it's very unfortunate that went down. So let's get into last episode's poll. So sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube, I asked the question, are you more excited about the global event Blockade Runner or the everyday cargo hauling missions mentioned in last week's Inside Star Citizen? And so you can see the results. I did provide a cargo is not my thing. I don't think anybody, like we have 0% who voted on that. I don't think anybody is anti-cargo. It is a backbone, if not the backbone, of what Star Citizen is and what it potentially could bring to the table in Star Citizen 1.0. So I did provide that as an option. No one took it. So we do have Blockade Runner at 33.3%, so a third of the vote. And then we have cargo hauling missions at 66.7%. And yeah, Blockade Runner is going to hit and miss. It's going to pop up. It's going to happen for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, however long it's going to last. But the cargo hauling missions are persistent or permanent, right? They're going to be there forever. So it makes sense that would be the answer. And again, unfortunately, I wish I could have dove into that even further and asked a question about that. So for this episode, let's use the comment section, like I said, for any feedback, reactions to this episode, ideas for next episode, but also talk to me more about cargo. What exactly are you interested in the cargo missions? Is it going from Pyro to Stanton? Is it those long duration aspects of the cargo hauling? Is it the massive quantities versus just one or two boxes? What is it about cargo hauling missions that truly is exciting you? And just to react to that, for me, it's the whole full spectrum. It's the full spectrum of taking your hangar and the freight elevator and manually loading items, from your ship to the elevator and vice versa. Taking a massive ship that might need an escort of fighters that goes with you from point A to point B. I think it's the all-encompassing game loop that Star Citizen's potential truly has, in my opinion. Before we get out from the community, I do want to take a quick second and celebrate that Beyond the Verse podcast just surpassed 30,000 plays. That was early in the week, so I sent a social media post thanking everybody. If you did not see that post, I wanted you to at least hear it. Thank you, the listener, the viewer, for being part of this. I'm going to call it a movement. I mean, we haven't been around that long, but we are bringing in some great content. We're bringing in phenomenal people into our organization. So super awesome. Really excited for everybody. This is as much for you as it is for me, as I always say. But 30,000 is a phenomenal number in just 66 episodes at this point. So, like I said, we're going to be moving quickly. Not only a short week, but also no Q&A. I'm going to ride that. I'm going to be depressed for a while. But before we get into Star Citizen, I know we just did the Q&A. We're a little bit out of order. But what a week we've had. I just want to take a second and do a little bit of real talk, a little bit of human interaction with you. I would love to hear about your week. Again, use those comments. I would love to hear about your week, But last week, so I get off Friday of recording episode 65, and then it's straight into preparation for Amazon's Prime Day. So this week was Amazon's Prime Day for Tuesday and Wednesday. There was a lot of prep work. So Friday was a very long day for me. Lo and behold, they release the Foundation Festival an hour after I'm done recording the episode called Foundation Festival. So I couldn't react to it. I could not create that little segment I was saying in episode 65. I couldn't touch it until this week because of the Prime Day prep. So that went down Saturday. I mean, we will never talk politics. We won't ever get into social conversations in that sense here on this podcast. But we did have an assassination attempt on the United States president, or the former president. Insanity from a human perspective. We're just cutting out all the BS. My son was there. Come on, guys. My son was in the room whenever the news started happening. And of course, I don't think anything of it. I'm like, hey, let's switch over to the news real quick. I want to see what's going on. And that is right when he stood up, face covered in blood. And my son's like, Dad, what happened? Are you kidding me right now? Having that conversation with an 8-year-old and it's a lot. It was a lot for the family. So you had Saturday night into Sunday and then straight into Prime Day. And so, man, it's been quite the week. We were supposed to do a book review. So part of Soul Provision, we just started about a month ago. We started a book club, if you will, called The Ark. And it is a play off of Star Citizen's Ark. It's a library of archives of reading and materials, right? And so we're calling this The Ark, and the first book was actually a recommendation from Jake Bradley. It's called Red Rising from Pierce Brown. Phenomenal book. We've had to push out that meeting. It's going to be a bonus episode. We're going to call it The Ark. But once a month, we're going to be talking about like a book we're reading, again, as a bonus episode. So if you want to listen to it, great. If you don't, it's perfectly fine. One, the book is phenomenal, but two, I'm just now done with it. It took me a month and a half to finish it. So adulting sucks sometimes. You don't really get to be in Star Citizen if you're just focusing on the game, but then you've got kids and work, and you got to throw in a book review and creating a podcast and creating org nights, bonus episodes. It's been insane. So thanks for the ride. Hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am. So just pure insanity. Let's get into this week in Star Citizen. So here we go. From the article, happy Monday, everyone. Foundation Festival's in full swing. So come and join us in celebrating this Star Citizens community, the Star Citizen community, and the new pilots exploring the verse. In the spirit of the festival, we are inviting players from all around the world to participate in a free flight event that will end today. So there you go. Unfortunately. And there is a referral code that they're offering an Agile Opoa Nox as a bonus for you and the new pilots you refer until July 31st at 800 or at 2000 UTC. So I have not, and I've said this before on my podcast, I'm all about the organic growth, the organic relationships, the organic everything, right? So there's a lot of individuals, and I found this out through social media. There are a lot of individuals that will create additional accounts and then refer themselves as their friend in order to get like a free lifetime insured vehicle, right? And then they can upgrade that because it has lifetime insurance. They can upgrade that to another hull. That's a process or an idea, but that's kind of how they're doing it. I am so against that. First off, I don't want to manage 100 accounts. That's ridiculous. But two, it is what it is. I mean, I could go out and buy an Opoa Nox and too easy, right? But I've never had anybody use my referral code. One, I don't market it. Like, I probably should market it a lot more. That referral code is in the notes of the YouTube videos. It's in the notes of the podcast. It's there. It's there if somebody's looking for it. But I don't really actively talk about it. So I guess just real quick, if you are interested in referring me as a friend or me referring you as a friend, and you can get that Opoa Nox, my refer a friend is right here on screen. I'm going to highlight it. It's *904 Sierra Tango Bravo Kilo Foxtrot Mike, or STAR-94ST BKFM. Again, it's on all the stuff. But if you use this referral code, you can get yourself a free Opoa Nox. Phenomenal. Have fun. Okay. I had to jump on my soapbox. I'll say it again when we go through that portion of the Foundation Festival. Back to the article. We've also got some exclusive rewards waiting for anyone who uses the guide system. These rewards will be automatically distributed after the Foundation Festival ends on July 31st. Head over to the Guide Hub to get started and score some exclusive goodies. I will say, I haven't had time, like I just mentioned. I haven't had time to guide, which I usually do, but we do have some active participants in Soul Provision that are currently doing it. Groza is one of them, and they've been having some issues with who's supposed to be getting what gear. I believe it's been ironed out since, but at the very beginning, there was some confusion on the guide and the guidee, the other participant, whatever you'd call them, not getting the right gear. And so there's a dynamic there. Again, I think it's been fixed since, but we'll get into that here in a second as well. Back to the article. Already part of a fantastic organization like Soul Provision, well, join the Org Showcase contest and share what makes yours stand out for a chance to win some wonderful prizes. While this year's contest is all about your in-game organization, if you are in the Washington, D.C. area, seize the opportunity out of game to enjoy great food and beverage with fellow space game nerds and members of our team at another exciting Bar Citizen event. We're also happy to announce that there will be a multitude of community-organized Bar Citizen events complementing CitizenCon 2954. Those of you visiting Manchester early in the week should look forward evening gatherings with Star Citizen fans from around the globe. Okay, so it's not just me. Mistype. Those of you visiting Manchester early in the week should look forward to evening gatherings with Star Citizen fans from around the globe. I digress. Moving on. From today on, you can secure your tickets for the new Wakefield Saint Takeover on Friday, October 18th, where a street in Manchester will be closed to traffic while 7 neighboring bars look to support the biggest European Bar Citizen gathering yet. That's awesome. Lastly, but certainly not least, we are thrilled to announce that Atmo Esports is stepping up its game this year once again. A world-class event demands a world-class facility, and that's precisely what they're delivering. Get ready for Enter Atmosphere. This post-CitizenCon 2954 event will feature live ship racing, a panel with members of the CIG team, and the Fight or Flight World Championship. Mark your calendars for Sunday, October 20th from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. UTC, and buckle up for an outstanding experience. And now we go to the bullet points, and again, like I said at the top of the podcast, not a lot going on. So nothing on Tuesday. Wednesday, we did have a Super Galactic Xenothreat Smackdown 2954 cookbook that we'll go through quickly. I think it merits, a couple of seconds on the podcast. Thursday, we had, again, probably one of the best Inside Star Citizens I've ever seen as far as aesthetics, audio. I love the sentiment that was shared at the very end, highlighting the 500 episodes, not of Inside Star Citizen, but of the collective content creation or the creation team. We'll get into that piece as well. And then again, today, there's nothing happening other than the RSI weekly newsletter hitting your mailbox. So a very quiet week in Star Citizen. We're going to move into the Foundation Festival. Again, we've already been live. We've already been live for, 7 days at this point, because it was last Friday when it came out. We're going to talk briefly on what it is, what is available for this year relative to previous years, what is still going on, because we do have the free flight ending today. So what is still going on, what your organization can do, etc. So here we go. Color scheme, as always, green and white. You're going to see a lot of those colors. I think, is it the 400i that is like the new vehicle with the new paint? We're going to get into that list. I totally guessed on that one. But here we go. Foundation Festival 2024. Foundation Festival is a multi-week program to strengthen community spirit around the Empire by encouraging its citizens to volunteer with local and imperial organizations. Join us in making the universe a better place for all with a free fly, referral bonus, and rewards for both veterans and new recruits making use of the guide system. Pretty pictures, looks great. All right, so play for free. So up until today, you had the opportunity to play Star Citizen for free. Usually, most of the global events or most of these like lore-based events, marketing events, if you want to break it down to a business, most of these marketing events have free fly events. And I'm pretty sure there's really nothing happening until October. From now until October. There might be some events in between, like smaller events, but if you look at the lore calendar, there's really nothing until Q4. Q4. So this might have been it for a little bit, which is fine because they're about to launch quite a lot in the next couple of weeks or months. We hope, at least. We're expecting Pyro. There will more than likely be a free fly event based around Pyro. I can't imagine there not be. It wouldn't be smart to not invite the entire world into Pyro when it launches. But that usually happens. There might be a free fly around 324 because the persistent hangers and everything else that comes with that patch. I can also imagine there will be another opportunity. But now's the time to get in. You're going to see, and I actually do mean that. I actually do mean that now is the time to get into Star Citizen. You might debate with me on whether or not it's a smooth experience, but I think you should experience the current state to truly appreciate what 324 is bringing. I think you should get into 323 and do a cargo mission or a delivery mission and just see how clunky and wonky it is to get boxes onto your ship and to sell boxes through the commodity system. It's like, this experience is going to be significantly different in a couple of weeks when 324 drops. So I don't know. I do think now's the time, knowing, and hopefully you have friends and guides that are educating you on this, knowing that it's going to be pretty rough between now and when the dust settles after 4.0 drops. So it'll be rough between now until probably CitizenCon. Just expectation management. All right, so most people associate Foundation Festival with the guide system, right? And so what happens is somebody like myself, somebody like the majority of us in Soul Provision, those of us that have been around for a couple of years, we will go into this system as a guide, and then we will be paired up with a mentee. I call them mentees, whatever. The person being guided. We'll get partnered with them, and then you just meet them in game and you teach them. You teach them whatever subject it is that they elected into. So as a guide, you can kind of say, I want to focus on these subjects. And then as a mentee, kind of the same thing. I have actually never gone through the mentee experience because I'm not a new player. But that's usually what happens is you get partnered up, and then it's a great way to recruit if you're in an organization. So, hey, while you're here, there's a great org called Soul Provision, and, here's what we do, and you can join us even though you're new. We actually have a few of those that did it here in Soul Provision. So, but what happens is you get rewards. So, again, you can, unfortunately, cheese the system where like two veterans can get together. So a veteran can elect to be a mentee, and then a veteran can elect to be a guide, and they can kind of, I say cheese the system, but I don't know. I don't know what else to call it. So there is a way to kind of work around it, but at the end of the day, the new player rewards gets a pistol, rifle, and the multi-tool. So it is the Gemini. This is so small on my screen. It is the Gemini pistol, the P4 AR rifle, and the multi-tool set, right? You get those 3 items, and then the veterans will get a Foundation Festival gray cap. I believe I have the green one from last year or 2 years ago, but you have the Foundation Festival gray cap. You have the 100i Foundation Festival paint, and then you've got the that is so small. The RRS Arden SL Red Alert Armor and SMG kit. And that's for doing 3 sessions, right? So 1 session, 2 session, 3 sessions. Super awesome. I think I said 400i. That 100i might be the new paint. Again, I believe it's in the next section that we'll be getting into. Here's the referral bonus. Again, friends listening to the podcast, if this speeder bike, the Star Wars speeder bike, is something that you want with lifetime insurance, again, you can use my refer a friend code STAR-94ST-BKFM. That is Sierra Tango Alpha Romeo -Niner for Sierra Tango Bravo Kilo Foxtrot and Mike. There you go. Enjoy. Again, I don't know what else to do, right? Like, organically, that's my referral bonus, and I'll put it over on Twitter as well, and just whatever. If it happens, it happens. I think it's funny that I've been doing this for like 2 years. All right, org recruitment. All right, this was cool. This is really cool. A couple of years ago, in fact, I'm pretty sure it was the same thing. You create a commercial, But it was an opportunity for orgs to kind of put their best foot forward, right? To put a commercial together or to put a screenshot together of who they are, what they represent, what they stand for. And for this year, it is a 60-second commercial. And what's fun about it is last night for Org Night and Supervision, that's what we did. We spent 2 hours getting video footage or game footage and snapshots and audio, right? Using my podcast equipment. We got audio to put in there as well, but also a year's worth of Org Night material as well. And we've got an amazing individual, and he goes by Mustang 6, amazing individual that has an amazing eye for marketing and PR. And so bless their heart, like they have a lot of work to do, but making this into a 60-second digestible opportunity. But the prizes are amazing. And while we're on this, let's just get into the prizes. So scrolling down, by the way, Spectrum, there is and this is in the, you can actually get it. You actually get to it from the Foundation Festival website, but it'll take you to the Spectrum article where it has the prizes here. So in first place, you're going to get the Anvil Valkyrie, and this is up to 3 players, right? 3 contributors, right? A maximum of 3 contributors per video are eligible to win. So 3 people from your org could win an Anvil Valkyrie with LTI. In second place, the Mirai Razor with LTI. And these all 3 have the Foundation Festival paints. And then in third place, the Drake Cutter with the Foundation Festival paint. So, I mean, those are great. I mean, 3 of your people are going to be getting an Anvil Valkyrie. That's huge. That's a very expensive ship. So there you go. It might not be extremely involving for the majority of Star Citizen players. I have no data to back this up, but I would almost promise that the majority of people playing Star Citizen are not in organizations. And if you are in an organization, let's say it's large, 500 people, chances are you're not going to have 500 people showing up and doing a commercial, right? So these are going to be those in your org that have an eye for, that excitement, an eye for bringing in and luring in new talent and new players. So it does kind of target a small group of people, but if you have the right org and you have time to spare, like last night's Org Night, it can be a lot of fun. You don't necessarily have to do game loops to enjoy this game. In fact, most of the fun that I've had in Star Citizen is kind of doing your own thing outside of game loops, going and exploring, finding some of the rare locations around Star Citizen, creating commercials and creating stuff for content. It can be fun given the right people. So that org recruitment, the community contest, pretty cool. And then, as per usual for Foundation Festival, there are mini guides, and they're not new guides. It's just a collaboration or a culmination of the guides. And so this one's kind of pyro themed. It's right around the corner. Are you going to be ready for it? But it brings up master modes, the industrial game loop, the combat game loop, the cargo game loop, which I can't imagine, or I don't know why they pictured the whole sea, because the whole sea continues to have issues. So whatever. So the cargo game loop, you got the medical game loop, you have the Foundation Festival specials. Again, this is not really new, but it's typical. It's what we expect out of the Foundation Festival. So quickly, these are the ships that were dropped into the pledge store. They're not new, just with events as they happen, there's a set of ships that get uploaded to the pledge store for you to buy, and then usually they fall off. You have some regular ships you can buy year round, but you have some ships that come just during events. So there's 11 that dropped for the Foundation Festival. Let's go through them real quick. You've got the Arrow, you've got the C1 Spirit, the Caterpillar, the Cutlass Black, the Cutlass Red, the F7C Hornet Mark II, the Gladius, the Prospector, the Razor, the Valkyrie, which, again, 3 of your people in that organization could get a $400 ship. It's crazy. And then the Drake Vulture. Drake Vulture continues to this day to be one of my favorite ships. Like, it's just such a chilled, like, you have an hour to spend by yourself, go out there in the Vulture and just live, just exist, right? Salvage a ship and just kind of hang out. It's such an awesome, unique ship. All right, Warbond upgrades. Here you go. So the Warbond upgrades right now, it's a special upgrade. You got Drake Vulture, Anvil Valkyrie, the Misk Prospector, and the Drake Cutlass Red. You also have starter packs that come up. And I don't necessarily go through this, but the starter packs that are available have the Foundation Festival paints. So if you get the Aurora starter pack, it comes with the green and white paint scheme. Same with the Cutter, the Nomad, and that is it for the starter packs. Then you got the gameplay focus packs. They're just on discount. Good stuff. So, okay. It kind of felt a little choppy, but I'm going through the Foundation Festival quickly, knowing that it's been a week already in existence. You've got about 2 more weeks left to really experience and get all of the items and guides. Let me show you the Spectrum real quick. Again, the Spectrum is a very quick summary of everything that you need for the Foundation Festival. We've already covered all this, so I don't feel the need to go through it again. Just usually I start here rather than looking at all the pretty bells and whistles that are on the RSI website. So as you can see here, this is just the narrative. It's just the script on what we just talked about. So there you go. Let's move on. Okay, here's the referral bonus. We already covered that. And then we already covered the Foundation Festival's org showcase winning prizes. Okay, so I think that's it for the Foundation Festival. I don't think there's much more to hash out. There's not like any in-game loops or global events or dynamic events for you to participate in. It's really just to engage the community and kind of more so outside of the game than inside of the game. So I hope you enjoy it. Have a great Foundation Festival. Let's move on. This is going to be quick. This is going to be quick, but I feel the need to highlight this. This is the first game. This is the first game I feel that truly leans into external community events, whether it's Bar Citizen, whether it's like these commercials are in game, but you can do more, for your org outside of the game. But then you have this from Alien Week. It's the Super Galactic Xenothreat Smackdown 2954 alien themed cookbook. And so if you remember, several weeks ago, there was kind of a contest, or there was an opportunity for you to contribute ideas. And it literally is, as you can see on your screen, it literally is real life food that has both ingredients, directions obviously, and a little bit of lore that goes with it. Like the Merrick spicy egg. Like I'm literally looking at the Merrick spicy egg that has what looks like a Merrick on it. It's just brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, the majority of the community are probably not going to pull up all 68 of these recipes and cook all 68 recipes. I won't. But you better believe I went through each one of these and just reveled in the creativity that I sure as hell don't have, but I can respect it from those who contribute. It's the same thing with like cosplay. When I go to a convention and I see everybody cosplaying, it's not my thing. I probably won't ever cosplay, but I respect the shit out of those that show up in battery-powered electric suits, and it makes you look like Xenothreat, and you got purple lights and everything. It's unbelievable what some of these individuals' creativity truly is. But I would encourage you to take a second, literally a couple seconds out of your day, go to this article and just scroll through all 68. There are some really, really awesome ideas that came out of this. So, okay, it merited its own segment, a couple seconds of the podcast. 324. Okay. All right. I've yet to make this like my main segment because like we're not close, and we're not close in the sense like it's not like a negative comment. Like I don't want to come across saying like, oh, it's being delayed and let's get mad at Star Citizen, and it's not about that. But we're not close in the sense that this has been in Evocati for like a month, And I don't see any sign of it being lifted. Now, I have members of the org, Stillwicker Beast is one of them, who believe that next week it'll get into the PTU. Cool. I hope it does. Yeah, I hope it does. But there are a couple of things that still haven't been tested yet. So Blockade Runner still has not been tested. The commodity balancing still has not been tested yet. So I think that'll be, and I don't know if that needs to be tested necessarily, but it's never been a focus testing of these patch notes. And then here recently, they just released in the Evocati build, they released the new replication message queue, right? That's the RMQ. The replication message queue, I don't know what it does. I actually tried looking it up in the last week or the last day, and I could not find anything out that wasn't legitimate CIG information. I found some things on Reddit, but I don't, like I said, I'll never talk about somebody else's opinions from a Reddit article. But there's a whole new like tech release in the Evocati, and so they're testing that right now. I'll read you real quick this little piece of the message of the day, and then we'll get into the patch notes. But the tech preview test Friday with Evocati. This test is going to use the same build that is currently on 324's PTU, but with the new replication message queue networking updates. This RMQ test from the core tech group will replace the current NMQ system in preparation for server meshing and will be much more robust against networking bottlenecks. This test will not be done with meshing enabled, but will focus on single shards. So there's not a lot of intel about what this actually does, like what the actual experience changes for the gamer. It more than likely is just on the back end, and they're going to analyze the pros and the cons. But I feel like there's going to be another week of Evocati. And then 2 weeks from now, I would say the last week of July is when I'm expecting the PTU to drop. So we'll see. I'm starting to learn very quickly that predicting things in Star Citizen, where I've been right a lot of the times, it's very unsafe to predict things in Star Citizen. So let's get into the patch notes. So let's get out of this guy. Patch notes. Here we go. So not a lot has changed. I do want to at least just go through the main pieces, which is this testing feedback focus. And here's the not ready. The current build is still under NDA, so no videos, screenshots, audio files should be shared, even though some content creators do for likes and attention. That's fine. But the testing and feedback focus is personal instance hangars, the freight elevators, storage access, hangar decorations, the cargo hauling missions, and then not ready for testing is, like I said, the cargo commodity rebalance and the dynamic event Blockade Runner. Here's a list of all the known issues that would probably take 30 minutes itself to go through. So the features and gameplay. So this actual patch release, this is where you get most of your information on what changed. But the gameplay, they bumped up many hauling mission reward payouts after design discussions and community feedback. So this bodes well that hopefully when this gets to the PTU and ultimately the persistent universe, hopefully all this balancing and rewards, the effort versus rewards, the EVR, hopefully it all kind of gets through the weeds and gets flushed out. And so we get a good experience when it hits live servers. Fixed a couple bug fixes and addressed, looks like 4 client and server crashes. So Inkwell, again, everyone's hero. I would always refer you to Inkwell's recap. It's usually the first one. It gets upvoted. This one's upvoted 91 times. This individual more than likely does like an Excel spreadsheet, like comparison, like probably copy and pastes into one cell, copy and paste the next patch notes into another cell, and then does like a difference analysis. But regardless of however they do it, they list the actual changes from one patch note to another. So you can just come here, look at Inkwell's post and be like, Roger. That's it. At least that's what I do to kind of get a good recap. So everyone's hero, Inkwell. Keep it up, brother. Alrighty, last but not least, like I said, short episode, Inside Star Citizen's Intro to Jump Points. And so I do want to talk about two things. First off, the article itself, and then the very end, which we're not going to show you because it's really only for those of you on YouTube. There's no audio, but we'll talk about those dynamics. So first, the article, ready to jump? This week on the 200th episode of Inside Star Citizen, we take one small step towards the Pyro system and beyond with the latest look at jump points, how to navigate them, and what's changed since their introduction. So this Inside Star Citizen's about 24 minutes, but really about 19 minutes. They spend the last 5 minutes, Jared spends the last 5 minutes really celebrating the 500 episodes of this entire idea of bringing the gamers closer to the developers in the process of game development, right? So there's been iterations in the past, and it goes back to basically the duration of the entire project of Star Citizen, but there's been 500 episodes. And so at the very end, Jared gives a shout out, and then there's credits that shows all, it's like 600 plus individuals that contributed to these shows. And so it's a really awesome, like the people first mission first, people always kind of concept that I love saying, but it's this people forward, like putting the person in front of the project. And so I can always appreciate that. That's very much my style. But we're going to get into the video. I'm going to show you the 18 to 19 minutes of the pure excitement and the beauty and the audio that comes with jump points. I will say this. Watch it, because the visuals here are stunning. And please watch the podcast. It helps me out with numbers. But go and actually watch the YouTube video. It is gorgeous. And so let's get into it. Without further ado, let's roll. So here we go.
A jump point connects 2 points, disparate spaces in the physical space. So basically you go through an opening on one side, you travel through a sort of a tunnel, and then you pop out somewhere else in space. Jump points are naturally occurring. The first discovery of a jump point was actually by accident. It was a cargo ship that had a leaky quantum drive, basically triggered the first opening of the jump point. It accidentally slipped inside and then disappeared, and they found it several years later when Nick Croshaw.
Please tell me that the sound effects in the background is Jared. I think that would be hilarious. Do me a favor and rewind and listen to it. But in the background, with all these animations that you're seeing, pretty sure that that's Jared making those sound effects.
Who basically was the first one who discovered that the leaking quantum engine was the cause of triggering this rip in time-space to basically open up. And so he basically kind of solidified the knowledge to be able to replicate it consistently.
There's been a lot of information shared over the years.
A lot of it has changed as we've learned and had new ideas.
So here's a primer on the first jump point we're building today.
By some of the people that are currently building it.
And what you see and hear is super work in progress.
So welcome to Inside Star Citizen Intro to Jump Points.
So a jump point is basically the means at which a player is able to transition from one solar system to another. There are two different jump point experiences, permanent and transient.
The permanent jump points are the ones that are the most stable, and they are always available for the player to travel through.
It's the well-trafficked, well-traveled route that...
I have never heard of transient jump points in this game. I've only heard of the permanent ones. I am very interested in learning more about these temporary, transient jump points. What does that even mean? Like, are you just gonna be flying around and all of a sudden there's a jump point that just pops up? Because right now I'm only thinking about this through the lens of the jump gates, or what they were once called gates. I need to do some more research. I am very interested in these temporary ones that pop up.
Most people will go through.
Which you find on the star map, the ones that you would like, say, transition from Stanton to Pyro, Pyro to Stanton.
Since they're stable and generally larger and easier to travel, there are infrastructure built up around them to support the commerce that goes through them on a regular basis. So we made a creative decision to remove the circular gates that we were doing in some of the concept art before. It just didn't match the reality of how we wanted to set these up in the world. They're supposed to be naturally occurring. And if you have like this infrastructure around it making this circular jump gate, then that's not showing like how it actually functions in the world.
We've lost the sort of size restriction when it comes to permanent jump points. So the main jump points that lead from system to system will accept any size ship.
And that's huge. It'll accept any size ship. Now, I'm pretty sure you still need fuel. Like, you're going to have a jump drive, and there'll be some ships that can't. I'm making the assumption. But I think that's news, because we've heard before that there are certain ships that can't make it through because they're not big enough. Well, they just removed the size restriction, so that's no longer the issue. You might still need a jump drive. I'm pretty sure an 85X, a Pisces, like these small little ships, a Nomad. I'm assuming these small ships would not be able to go through because they don't have jump drives, not because of their size. I think that's news.
Transient jump points are more ethereal.
First, you have to find them, and once you've found them, you don't know where they go.
We like to call in the narrative team the Swiss cheese approach to jump points, which are smaller access points to the main tunnel. Those will still be restricted by small, medium, and large. So basically, it opens up opportunities for smaller.
And you don't know where they go. Like, what? I'm sorry, but this has my exploration itching. Right? Like, how amazing would it be if you have a reconnaissance and surveillance element that's, I don't know, paroling the system wherever you're at, right? Like, let's say you're Javelin, you're home based. Your Javelin's in the middle of nowhere, but you have a reconnaissance, surveillance, a security element that's going around, 100 clicks away. And they spot one of these random transient jump points. Like, how cool would it be to radio back, like, hey, we found something, get the exploration team ready to go. A Carrack shows up, the Odyssey shows up. And again, you don't know where it's going. So you go through and you end up somewhere else. First off, it's terrifying. Second, like, that exploration itch is incredible. That is awesome.
Ships to kind of sneak their way through.
A transient jump point may only be able to use once. It may be a little bit more permanent, but you can never tell how long does it last once you find it.
If people are looking to avoid scrutiny, we'll look for these sort of side routes to get into the jump point to bypass, security or customs or stuff like that.
In 4.0, our first and only jump point will be the one linking Stanton to Pyro and Pyro to Stanton. Maybe the best way to share this design is simply to walk you through the whole thing. So we leave Lorville, we put it onto our star map, and we set our course for the Stanton to Pyro jump point. QT there. And then upon arrival, you will fly down to the gateway station that's located there, because you're going to want to make sure that you're stocked up for your trip into Pyro, because Pyro may well not have the things that you're used to in Stanton. You probably want to pick up some ammo, and you want to pick up some more fuel, probably some more fuses, and then after that, undock, and then turn yourself to view the jump point.
The jump points will be visible from far distance. It probably will appear as a small star kind of a thing that just pulses and asks you to come near me.
You'll see the massive whirlwind from the gravity pool that the jump point itself is creating, which is a gas cloud, and you'll see it in various different colors or forms. You can fly towards where the jump point will be, and there is structures in Stanton that sort of lead you towards the jump point.
When you approach the jump point, what you'll hear is the general ambience of the whole area, whether that's the distant portal emitting energy or violent clashes of thunder that is drawing the player into the central jump zone. And as we get closer, this will build up, and the player will feel like they're being drawn into something primordial.
With jump points, multiple players can.
And I will say this, if you have like thalassophobia, this kind of taps into that. It is quite, again, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to. But what you're seeing is like, again, imagine yourself flying around Star Citizen in pitch blackness. Of course, stars out in the distance, but you see the jump point when you're clicks away. I mean, lots of not AU, but you can see it from like GM away, right? Pretty far away. And then as you get closer, it gets bigger and bigger to where your entire screen eventually gets engulfed, right, by this aesthetic. It is incredible. And again, it's the darkness that you're getting into, and with the electricity, the thunder, the sound effects, everything. This has an incredible immersion level to it. I cannot wait to get into this.
Take them at the same time. So it is probably likely that you will encounter other players waiting to make their jumps.
And you'll also see like the security and the turret infrastructure around it that's providing a safe experience on the permanent jump gates.
In order to perform your jump, the first thing you need to do is get closer to the jump point.
But you won't be able to go all the way up to it. Like when it's not active yet, it has a field around it that will push you away until you've attuned to the anomaly that allows you to go through.
You have to call ATC. The anomaly needs ATC to be able to allow you to enter.
When you're using a jump point, you're actually just an individual. So the ATC calls that you have to make are for you, and then the groups that you go in are designated by the ATC.
If you contact ATC at the same time, you can be put into the queue together, but there's no guarantee that you'll be in the same jump group.
If you want to jump with your friends, you need to make sure that you arrive together, and when you call ATC, you will be able to see how much space is in the group. So if you have friends and you want to jump together, you'll be able to know exactly how much room there is in that group. And if it's not enough for you and you want to go with your friends later, then you can forfeit and you go again.
In the future, I definitely want to have some more quality of life features where you can get into queue at the ATC as a party, but currently our ATC does not support queuing as a party, so you'll just be doing it as an individual.
Once you are within range of it, you need to be changing over to nav mode. Your UI will automatically change to the jump drive UI,
which will allow you to know if you're aligned, if you're tuned, if you can go in, if it's blocked. You have a visual input of the UI, the HUD is moving, is turning until you have a message notification that tells you, all right, you're aligned. If you look away, of course, that will trigger the cancellation of that alignment. If you move away from your position, you'll lose probably your position in the queue. You'll have red markers that tells you, or you're on the wrong side, you have to move to that direction. You'll have also kind of like a landing strip where you have the lights that tells you, oh, you have to go in through this area. So you'll have those rings that pulse and tell you you're correctly aligned.
So as soon as the ATC has gotten to your group and you're now able to use the jump gate, your jump drive will start attuning to the gate.
And once you have authorization and you have opened the wormhole, you'll have the tuning visual that's really similar to the aligning, but with tuning messages that tells you what you need to do. And once that's done, you'll have tuning access and you'll be ready to go inside.
While your ship is attuning, you'll see rippling in the anomaly. And as soon as you are attuned, then you can fire a burst of quantum energy into the portal that will rip it open, and you'll have a gate in space that allows you to see the tunnel beyond and travel to your new star system.
When it opens, you'll hear the space around the jump point being ripped apart and everything being drawn into it. A really guttural, swirling sound of all the space around the jump point being dragged into this one singularity.
During this drawing process, the ships are drawn in automatically. You don't have to control anything. You don't have to do anything. There is, in fact, nothing you can do that would stop you being drawn in.
So the plan right now is if there's any obstructions in front of you when you're trying to attune to the gate.
Enter in all of the toxic players. Of course, gamers will find a way to be a nuisance in something like this. So I find the next couple of seconds very interesting.
That'll break your attunement. So if somebody gets in your way while you're trying to attune, your attunement will pause until that obstruction has gone away. However, if anybody gets too close to the jump gate and they're not attuned, then they're going to get pushed away, which should clear the area for anybody who's trying to get through.
So for the people who want to block a jump point, we are actually considering our options as to how to prevent that from happening.
Good.
When you cross the threshold, you'll hear an instantaneous whip of the ship being pulled in and the changing of atmosphere between deep space and this singularity that you're being dragged into.
Once you're in the tunnel, your ship will be flying at a set speed that's determined by the flow of energy through the tunnel.
You'll hear the space around you flying past you at a great pace, like a really long cosmic drain pipe.
And you don't have any control of how fast you're going. You'll speed up in the straights and slow down in the corners to a certain degree.
Real quick, Disco says, what you see here in the tunnel is an intermediate stage of visual development. We've built the fundamental elements that make up the tunnel and associated VFX. Now we are iterating towards the visual target you're already familiar with. There you go.
But you still have to navigate.
The tunnel itself is something else. It needs a lot of technical and graphical things that need to happen.
We've got flickering lights, some type of ethereal type of particle effect to show you type of the direction we're flowing. We also have fog effects, and this idea that you're always moving towards a strong, bright light in the distance. The idea we're going off so far is that we're working on the bending of light. You'll see impressions of the exterior, the location you've just come from, and also hints of the way you're going to. The walls of the tunnel type of curving the space-time around you, and eventually, as you travel through the tunnel, that distortion will move away from the initial system you started in and then blend slowly towards the new system you end up in. We can kind of do anything we want because it's an enclosed space, so we're doing things like, on the rendering side, we're taking the sunlight, which we don't normally need when you're in an enclosed space, and we're reusing the sunlight, all the tech that goes behind that with high-res shadow maps and these type of things, and directional occlusion, and then reusing that and using that to create a flickering, pulsating effect in the tunnel. And we can take a lot of shortcuts and do a lot of cool things that aren't really possible in the rest of the game because we have this totally enclosed and bespoke play space.
You will not see two-lane traffic inside the jump tunnel itself. In the jump tunnel, you'll see the ships ahead of you, and if you look behind, you'll be able to see ships that are in range behind you, but you won't see traffic going the other direction.
Why do you hate fun?
It's not that I hate fun, it's that I want everybody to have a good experience in this tunnel, and if there's other ships there that you can collide with, we want to avoid that kind of situation.
The players' ships, when they're traveling in the tunnel, are going to be in a line. So it's going to be, the term that we use internally is ducks in a row. So one ship behind another ship behind another ship.
There'll be some obstructions in some of the tunnels which you have to dodge around. But for the most part, it's a matter of turning and navigating through the tunnel and not hitting the sides.
Because the closer you are to the edge of the tunnel, the more likely you are to fail your jump.
The edges of those tunnels and those obstructions cause distortion damage to your ship.
There's a pool on your jump drive, and if this pool fills with distortion, then your jump drive will shut down. If your jump drive does shut down, then you're going to fail that jump.
you get booted out of the tunnel, and there's a number of places in the system where you could end up based on like how long you've been in the tunnel. You could end up back in Stanton, or you could be in Pyro, but you're not going to be at where you wanted to be. You're going to be at the edge of the system somewhere and have to find your way back.
Currently, the jumps that we are toying with are about 3 minutes, but this is still open to iteration based on how many ships we want to have in that tunnel, how close they are, and the trip needs to be long enough in order to cover the transition from your origin system to your destination system. When you are arriving via a jump point, you will realize that you aren't actually coming through the same entryway that you would have been passing through to go to the next system. Players will not be able to necessarily camp that point just for you to exit it. The intention is that there will be...
That was one of my main questions I had going into this when I first watched it. Was, okay, great, you can be a jerk and block people from getting in, but doesn't, especially Pyro, because it's lawless, and you have the ability to kind of do this wherever you want to in Pyro, but the spawn camping is what a lot of games call it, but the camping on the other end of like waiting, especially in Pyro, waiting for those locations, that was a huge question of mine. But the randomization, and they're going to talk about it here in a second, of like a shotgun blast of like where everybody ends up, the randomization is crucial in this process.
Multiple locations where you will exit to, and so this will mitigate that threat.
It's kind of a shotgun approach coming out of the jump gate, because we don't want everybody to be slamming right into each other. We want to be able to spread the ships out that are coming through and get your own view of your new setting and where you're at.
So when you come out of the Pyro side of the jump gate, you come out into completely different space than on the Stanton side. So it's sort of like a cave of gas. There's also some structures that lead you directly towards the station. You can do anything you like there. It's just a normal R&R station that is just nice and safe before you go out into Pyro itself, which is more dangerous, of course.
We've already shown on the tech preview that you can enter a jump gate and come out the other side, and we've got the ability to transfer servers. We've got that working even better than we ever thought we could at the beginning. We want to make the experience of going through the tunnel as seamless as possible. We don't want it to be super hard, but we want it to be engaging. We're going to save the challenging experience, the super hard acrobatics for the transient gates when we get to them.
We're dialing in the numbers about how many people jump at the same time, distance between ships, precisely the speed at which ships move down the tunnel, things like that. There's a lot of variables involved in balancing it, and there will be far more testing in the tech preview channel for jump points, so you can look forward to helping us figure out there.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be to this point where we're able to deliver this new system of transferring yourself from one star system to another, being able to visit an entirely new star system, and having that experience of going from Stanton to Pyro. It's going to be exciting.
Thanks for watching, and we're all really looking forward to being able to make these jumps and just a normal part of our gaming life.
There you go.
Which is fun, because jumping is fun.
So what did we learn this week? Well, hopefully a whole heck of a lot about the first jump point that's currently in development and scheduled to make its way into Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 in just the next few months. Yeah, I didn't say before the end of this year. We're still targeting something a bit sooner than that. And that's all I'm going to say. And while jump points are a major milestone for the development of this game, before we let you go this week, I'd like to talk to you about a different kind of milestone unique to the program that you're watching now. ISC began in April of 2019, and since then, we've managed to tell a variety of different stories about more aspects of game development than you're probably likely to find anywhere else. That's 200 episodes so far, including the one that you're watching right now.
I'm going to stop it there, because we already talked about celebrating the rest of this. So feel free to watch the video. the teams deserve it, right? The teams deserve the attention. Go watch it. Jared does a great job pushing the kudos, the credit to the other 600 plus individuals that they celebrate. So please go do it. Not trying to diminish it, just not really podcast appropriate because you can't see anything or you can't hear anything. So a couple questions I have for jump points, and I think if you're going to respond to the Spotify Q&A or the polls in the Q&A, this is probably good for the comments section. But how are you feeling about jump points? First off, my thoughts, freaking love it. The aesthetics, the audio, the actual involvement, the engagement. Like, I 100% love every single second of it. Of course, I have questions. And so is 3 minutes too long, right? Like, just sit still in your room, whether you're driving, maybe after this podcast, sit still for 3 minutes. It feels like an eternity. So going, having to be engaged, because you're having to be engaged. You heard about the distortion and it impacting your ship. You have to be engaged for 3 minutes. And so for 3 minutes, you're controlling yourself going in and out and around this tunnel. Is 3 minutes too long? All right, number two, this is the only way to get from Pyro to Stanton. As much, and I'm like 99.9%, as much as I love everything immersive and quote unquote realistic in Star Citizen, is it doing too much? If you decide, hey, I'm gonna log into the game, but I'm in Stanton, I'm gonna go to Pyro, like, it's going to end up being like 30 minutes of an entire process of getting from where you are to the jump point, experiencing the jump point, getting to the other side of that jump point, and then getting from that jump point to your next location. Is it too much? Because there's not going to be another way to get from point A to point B. It's going to have to be a very, very deliberate process. And so as we fast forward 5, 10, 15 years from now, if you need to go from I'm making this up, I don't have any other details here, but if you start in Stanton and you need to go to Nix or another system that has 4 or 5 of these jump requirements, is that an hour? Is that an hour and a half to actually get from one point of the system to the other, or the universe to the other? And so again, I'm 99.9% in love with everything. Can't wait for it. I'm putting the cart in front of the horses when I ask those questions, but I think we as a gaming community probably should ask those questions. Is at what point is too much, right? Is 3 minutes too much? Is the whole game loop of transportation too much? And not even mentioning the fact that you probably, as a cargo runner, has smaller ship, need a convoy, need escort, all the other implications there. So in the comments section of the Spotify podcast, I would love, or even over on YouTube, comment section, give me your thoughts on the end of this jump point inside Star Citizen. We did it. All right, that's it. That is it for episode 66. Next week, we'll have the ARC bonus episode. We'll talk about Red Rising from Pierce Brown. We will also more than likely have the Org Night bonus episode, as well as we'll start publishing more of those as we get into it. I think we're having a mining night, a really fun twist on mining, so that'll be really exciting. But if you want to become part of the conversation, we already kind of talked about this, but the Spotify poll will ask that question. And then the comment section is really anything that you want to put in there. Comments about the episode, what you want to see or hear from the next episode. And like I said, reactions to jump points and what it means to the game. You can also email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. And then all of our socials is /BTV_cast, with the exception of our YouTube channel, which is /BTV_cast. If you want to join our in-game organization called Soul Provision, you can do so at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.